Hello everyone and welcome to the UCD Michael Smurfit Business School Admissions webinar. We're just going to wait a moment for everybody to join our webinar now. So before we begin the webinar, we'd just like to introduce ourselves. So my name is Laura Keeley and I'm an admissions manager at the business school. And we also have my colleague Richard Murphy, who's also admissions manager.
Hi everyone, you're very welcome. Look forward to talking to you today.
So today we will be discussing our MSc programs we have available at the school. We'll also be talking through how to apply, so our admissions process, and we'll also be giving you some tips about applying. We'll also go through the scholarships that are available at the school, and we'll also talk through some questions that we get asked quite a lot in admissions. We then will have the opportunity for you to ask us questions directly as well, and we hope to answer all your questions. So we have a wide range of master programs available at our school. So we have 22 master programs. So as you can see on the screen now, we have a wide range of master programs. So we have masters in accounting, in finance, in management, marketing. So we have a wide range of master programs. What's interesting about our school is that you don't have to have studied business to study a master's at the school. So if you have studied business, there's lots of masters to choose from. However, if you haven't studied business, as you can see on the screen, there's lots of different master programs that you might be interested in applying for. We always recommend before you apply to the school that you do some research about your master program to make sure it's the correct masters for you. So we'd recommend that you would look at our website and also attend some of the events that we have today in regards to each of our master programs. What's also really important when you're choosing a master's is also to look at the career opportunities that are available from each of the master programs. If you haven't studied business before, we now will show you just some of the courses that you may want to look at. So we have digital marketing, our marketing programs, we have an MSc in management, project management, and we also have a food business strategy master's as well. So there is lots of different masters available if you haven't studied business before. So as I said, we'd recommend that you do some research into each of the master programs, look at the different career opportunities from each program, and also try and talk to some of our current students and also our alumni that have studied on these programs too. So hopefully after you've done your research and you've decided which program you're going to apply for, you then would apply directly to the school. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about applying to the school, the admissions process, and also we're going to give you some tips on applying as well. So there's 4 main stages to the application process. So you make your application online. With your application, you may need to provide some documents. There then will be some essay questions you will need to answer, and then you hear back from the admissions team. So that's the general process of applying to the school. So the first stage of the application is to apply online. So you make your application for your master program online, and you can also apply for some of our scholarships as well. With your application, you can check then and see the updates on your application. So Richard, do you have any tips for the students applying?
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, it's a common question again. I think obviously nowadays more and more people are using mobile devices, and it is something that our system can do, but we would probably suggest using a standard laptop if you can, or desktop computer. It just makes things easier. It's probably a good idea to get all your files together in one either PDF or separate them out, and then you can upload them a lot easier. I know from my own experience of testing the system that using it from a mobile, it's a little bit difficult. So that's just something that, and it probably also helps stop some sort of tech issues that might crop up. So definitely, if you can, use your laptop.
Great. So the next stage then of the application process is the documents. So we will require all academic transcripts for all your years of study. So this includes the modules that you've studied and also your grades. a CV, and then, if required, an English language test. So Richard, do you have any tips for the documents?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Laura. Just the same thing. Like I said, just get your documents ready beforehand. As admissions manager, what we like to see in a good application is very organized, files that are relevant, but file names that are relevant to the document. So for example, if you're sending in your transcripts, you obviously can detail your transcripts either year 1, year 2, year 3, etc. So likewise, if it's an English language test, that you obviously just save it as an English language test and upload them into the appropriate place as well. So some people group their transcripts together in one PDF, and there's online combiner PDF things you can do, free tools online. You can do all that too, but really just try your best to make things as clear as possible. And you know, it's something that I don't know about you, Laura, but I get a lot where you get transcripts that one page is, the first page is it's year 4 and it's upside down, and then the other way around. That's a small thing, but like if you're asking me what I like to see, it's a really nice, clear set of transcripts and other documents.
So the next stage of the application process is the essay questions. So there'll be 2 essay questions that you will need to answer regarding the master program that you're applying for. So Richard, any tips for the essay questions?
Yeah, so these aren't a secret. A lot of people think that maybe it's like a test, you don't know what they are. So when you go to apply, you'll see there's 2 questions online, and I'm paraphrasing slightly here, but essentially the first question is why we should pick you. Describe yourself, why you should pick you over another candidate. And the second question is where you see yourself maybe working in 5 years' time. So on the first question, what we're looking for really is to see that that there might be something that you can write here that you don't have in your CV. We're looking for maybe leadership qualities, so are you a captain of a sports team, or, do you do charity work? Do you do some other sort of social work? Things like that. Just something that paints a little bit of a picture about you that's separate from your academics and maybe your work experience as well. And then on the second question, as I mentioned, where yourself in 5 years' time, this is one where I'd say it's pretty fair to say, Laura, when you say that we like to see that you've done a bit of research on this. So again, what you can do, what other applicants do is they use LinkedIn. They go on and type in maybe where some of our graduates have gone. Maybe they've reached out. Now, you don't have to. Maybe they've reached out and talked to some people already, either at an open day or through our, we'll talk about it in a little while, our Ask a Student facility that we have on our website, where you can use an online platform that we have to directly talk to current students. So basically what we're trying to see is that you've done a bit of research about the program. So you've looked into the modules, you can understand that maybe this module will help me get a career in this company, and that you've really thought about what type of sector you want to work in, what type of company, what's your dream job, so that you're not just kind of writing a bit of a wishy-washy answer here. And I think one thing as well, Laura, it's good to see that we do say don't write less than 150 words in each question. I think it actually says on the application form, don't write much more than that, but there's really no limit to how much you want to write, as long as it's succinct enough. So keep it succinct, use either paragraphs or bullet points, and maybe you make 3 or 4 good points in each question. It's not something that you should overthink. It really shouldn't take you much more than probably an hour to do something like this. And just remember, it's not an academic essay. It's much more treated like a job application letter. I think is one of the best things I can suggest to you.
So the next stage then is submitting your application. So to submit your application, you would need to pay your €50 application fee. And what we'd always recommend is before you submit your application, to check your application, and then just to make sure that you have all the documents and make sure it's all submitted with your application. So Richard, any tips?
Yeah, just one slight point there, and Laura's absolutely right that you should have all your documents, but there are cases where we can accept applications without everything. So for example, if you don't have your English language test already, you just write a note to say you're taking it. And what we can do is we can make you a conditional offer based on you getting a certain score in your English language test. Likewise, obviously with transcripts, that's a pretty obvious one. But there's an obvious question that we get a lot is, do you need to finish your degree before you apply? No, and for the same reason, most people will apply to us who are in their final year now, maybe. Obviously, you want to have your final transcripts or your final grades now, but just submit what you can. So have as much, as what Laura's saying, have as much ready as you can. And even things like references. If we need extra stuff, we will get back to you. It's not a straightforward test that this is your one chance to submit everything. If we require things, we will get back to you. But what Laura is really saying there is to make the best application straight up as you can. If we don't have to chase you, that's always a bit easier for us too. And just in relation to the application fee, as we sort of say there, if you do want to apply for more than one course, you can, it's the one application fee, it's €50 to apply. You can apply for technically as many courses as you want, but we might touch on that in a little while on our frequently asked questions bit. So yeah, I'll leave that section there, Laura.
Great. And then the final stage is your result. So when you hear back from the admissions team, this is after you have submitted your application. So there's 3 results from admissions. So we have offers, conditional offers, or no offer. So if you receive a full offer, that basically means that you've met all the entry requirements to the program. So you may have completed your degree. A conditional offer, what this means is that you haven't met all the requirements for the program. So for example, if you're in final year, you still need to complete your degree, that would be what we call a conditional offer. And we would let you know what results that you would require to meet the condition of your offer. And Richard, any tips then about the results?
Yeah, just be patient is kind of what I really would suggest if you can. Normally we say things can take up to 3 weeks to assess. Now we do try our best, and myself and Laura and other colleagues in the admissions office are flat out trying to get an answer back to you as soon as we can, but equally it's not something we want to rush and make sure that we definitely give you the right decision. So yeah, generally we say 3 weeks, but they tend to be a little bit quicker than that. But if they don't worry. It's not that something's been forgotten. If you've made your application and paid your fee and submitted the documents that we need, we will get to you. So no need to probably email us in. We definitely will get back to you. So yeah, just be a little bit on the patient side, particularly now because we are seeing a huge amount of extra applications this year already. We opened in the 1st of October, and our numbers are well up on what they were last year. So probably another side piece I'll mention in a minute, but do get an application in as soon as you can, if you can. Certainly if you can by the end of November. So we'll talk about that again in a few minutes.
So if you receive a full offer or conditional offer, the next stage then is to accept your place. So we will contact you from the admissions team, and we would normally give 2 weeks to accept your place. And this basically means that you need to pay your deposit. So it's €500. In some of our courses, though, it would be €1,000. And Richard, do you have any tips about accepting your place?
Yeah, like we say there, try your best to accept and pay your deposit as early as you can. Again, particularly now, because we're seeing more and more applicants applying to us. You do have usually 2 weeks to accept your place, as Laura mentioned. We can have for a little bit of flexibility around that if there's some reason, but generally speaking, we're going to be quite strict on that, and it will be 2 weeks, which means your offer will be lapsed after 2 weeks generally. And because there are so many extra applicants this year, more than likely someone else will be offered a place straight away, and that person will probably accept. Obviously, being a top 50, top 100 business school and having extremely good courses and prestigious courses, most people who do apply to us are very keen on actually getting a place and will accept straight away. So it's something that I would suggest that if you're happy with everything before you apply, make sure you've got everything in place, like your finance, like you're sure this is something that you want to do, so that hopefully when you do get your offer, you can accept straight away. Now, again, if you get an offer and you have further questions about it or about the course, or you want to clarify some things, that's no problem. Reach out to us. We'll be very happy to help you. But do, if you can, please accept your offer as soon as you can.
So that is basically all the admissions process. So we're going to move now on to our scholarships. So we do have a wide range of scholarships available at the school. So we've just mentioned some here on our screen. So at the moment, the UCD 5% alumni tuition reduction is the only scholarship we have open at the moment. So this scholarship is for UCD graduates or students that have studied their full degree in UCD. We will be updating our website in the coming weeks, which will list all our scholarships and the open and closing dates for each of the scholarships. We do have a wide range of merit-based scholarships and also financial need-based scholarships. So just our first scholarship there, Aspire. So again, this will be listed on our website in the coming weeks. So it's a financial and merit-based scholarship. We have a wide range of merit-based scholarships as well. And we also have sports scholarships too. So as I said, the only scholarship open at the moment is our UCD Alumni Scholarship. However, in the coming weeks, we're going to update our website and we'll list off all our scholarships on our website. So now we're going to go to questions that we get asked in admissions. So the first question is, can I apply for more than one course? So as Richard mentioned already, you can apply for more than one course. So as I mentioned at the start of the presentation, we have a wide range of courses. So for example, if you're looking at our marketing programs, we have 4 marketing programs. So you might want to apply for each of those programs. So if you are applying for more than one program, what we recommend is that you preference them. So there is the ability to preference your courses. So you can preference 1, 2, 3, and 4 if you're applying for all the marketing programs. So the answer to that question is yes, you can apply for more than one of our courses. Another question we get asked is, when should I apply? So as we said, the applications have opened from October 1st, and we have seen a significant increase in our applications. So to answer that question, we would say, once you know the program you want to apply for and you've researched your program, we would say to apply as soon as you can. Are there scholarships? So yes, we do have a number of scholarships, and we will be updating our website, and you'll be able to see the list of our scholarships available in the coming weeks. And then Richard, do you want to answer the last 2 questions?
Yeah, sure. How do I accept my place is obviously a big one, and that's fairly straightforward. All the details would be included in an offer letter that's sent to you, and an offer email is really what the format it takes these days, obviously. So keep an eye out in your emails, and you simply just log on to your it's called the SIS web account, Student Information Systems, and it's very straightforward. You just pay your acceptance deposit, as we mentioned already, of either the 500 or €1,000. And that's it, straightforward. Now, if you have any problems doing that, you can, of course, email us and we can do it on behalf of you. But it's straightforward as that. Just one quick note, actually, you may also be, most people probably will be getting a conditional offer. It's exactly the same situation. You do a conditional accept is basically the status that you get. So you accept on the condition that you will either finish your degree with a certain score or you pass an English test. So that's basically that. And then the last question, can I talk to a current student? So this is a good one. As I mentioned already briefly, we have a partner website. It's if you look under the admissions tab, you'll see a number of subsections or subheadings, and one of them is ask a student or chat to a student. And this is a tool that we brought in last year to great effect. A lot of our current students, class ambassadors, actually are online and are helpful in answering questions that you might have about the actual course that they're studying, or maybe you're coming from a certain region in the world and you want to talk to someone else who's already come from that same place as yourself and how they're getting on. And it's really not so much, questions about relation to admissions. It's more things about student experience and how you're getting on. So it's a very useful tool. Now, currently, we only have about 5 ambassadors at the moment because our last one's just finished and our new ones are starting in about 2 weeks' time. So there's a few good ones left up there at the moment. If you want to reach out to them, you can, but we should have probably around about 80 new ones coming online very shortly. So if you have questions you want to talk to a student about, hang tight, and we'll probably also be emailing these links on too in a little while.
So if you want to find out more information about our master programs, we would advise you to visit the Smurfit School website, and also the event we're holding today to attend as many as the webinars in regards to each of the master programs. If you want to contact us directly, our admissions team email is smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. So now we will move on to our question and answers. So if you have any questions, what you can do now is you can write us the questions in the Q&A section.
Okay, Laura, I might start on some of these now myself, just to see. There's a few up top now. If we can't get through to everyone, or maybe if your questions is maybe a little bit too specific, we might not answer it straight away, but we should be able to get back to you, or else you can email our main admissions email, which is smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie, and we will get back to you usually within about 24 hours. So apologies if we don't get through everyone today, but we'll try our best now. So one of the first questions was just in relation to, I think there's actually been a few questions. Are there GMATs? Are GMATs required? There's one specifically in relation to, for example, digital marketing and if you want to get a scholarship. So there's probably two parts to this. The first general question would be in relation to, do we require a GMAT test? So generally speaking, no, we don't. And part of the reason why is that GMATs are very quantitative based, and a lot of what we look for in students would be more than just quantitative sort of skills or background. So we like to sort of look at things very holistically. We try to understand that people have strong leadership skills and soft skills. And sometimes the GMAT doesn't quite reflect that. So technically speaking, no, we don't put too much emphasis on having GMATs. That said, if you've taken a GMAT and you have a relatively good score, we probably suggest a good score being maybe over 630, please do include it, but we don't request it. Now, the second part to that is there is, as Laura mentioned, a scholarship, a merit-based scholarship. Laura, sort of remind me the name of the scholarship again. It's the Global Excellence Scholarship, isn't it?
It's called the MSc Merit-Based Scholarship.
Thank you. And that's the one where you do need a GMAT if you want to basically get the scholarship. Now, it's obviously a competitive scholarship, so there's no guarantees of getting it. Obviously, the higher GMAT score you get, the more chance you'll have of getting this particular scholarship. Again, as Laura mentioned, the full scholarship details will be published on our website in the coming weeks, so just maybe check back on that. And so I hope that's answered the questions about GMATs. There was one other person here who also mentioned, is there a way of finding out what GMATs, I think, or, you know, if a GRE or GMAT is required? No, again, it is not, because it's a little bit more particular than that. Like I've said, it pretty much answers the question. You generally don't need a GMAT test. Now, obviously for our MBA program, there is a GMAT or GRE required, but for most of our MSCs, no is the answer to that. Now, again, we may set you one. For example, if you're applying for our MSc in finance or one of our finance programs, and maybe your quantitative skills aren't, you know, on looking at your transcripts, maybe you don't have the best grades in some quantitative subjects, we may then set you a GMAT test to do in the meantime. But generally speaking, no is the answer to the GMAT question. I might just answer one or two more, Laura, and then maybe I'll let you have a go at it too.
Yeah.
A question here, a very generic one, how much would it be to join the school? So Carl, in relation to that question, the best way to answer that is just have a look at our website, because it's particular to obviously whether you're a European student or non-European. Obviously non-Europeans have to pay, unfortunately, a little bit more. And then also courses can range in cost. There's a few different levels of course costs. So best thing to do is pop onto our website, click into your course, and you'll see then the little table which gives you the fee structure as to which one will be. You can obviously pay your fee as well, usually, depending on where you're coming from, in 3 installments throughout the year at the beginning of each trimester as well. So that might help split the fee up. Again, I think we kind of answered this. How much time does it take to hear back from the admissions? Generally speaking, we try our best to get back to you with an application anyway, answer within 3 weeks. And I do note there's another question from someone else saying that you've been waiting for a little bit longer than that. Again, depending on your region, sometimes it can be longer because they go through our global or our regional office in your area and then come through to us. So just again, be patient. We will get back to you. Sorry, Laura, just one more while I'm there. I just see that there's a GMAT required for the SEMS program. So our SEMS is probably one of the most prestigious programs we have. It's ranked 8th in the world. It's their international management program. Phenomenally good program, highly recommended. And SEMS is part of about 30 odd other top business schools around the world. And if you want to apply for the SEMS in one of these other partner institutions, most of them do require GMAT, but one of the key advantages with us is that we don't require GMAT for the SEMS program. So again, if you're applying for it and you've got it, or you're doing it anyway, then obviously send it in to us as well. We won't say no to it, but we don't specifically ask for it. So I hope that helps. Laura, we'll let you answer a few there.
Yes, so we have a few questions about if you want to submit a reference with your application. So yes, that you can do that. So on your application, you can see that there'll be a section where you can upload additional documentation. So that's where you would put your references. We also have some questions about just hearing back from your application. So as Richard said, we have seen a significant increase in our applications. So we will get back to all our applications in the coming weeks. We do have a lot of scholarship questions as well. So our scholarships will be updated on our website in the coming weeks too. So you'll be able to see the opening and closing dates for each of the scholarships available. We also had some questions about your CV. So if you're applying to a program, should you update your CV to meet the requirement of the program? So yes, if you have anything on your CV that you think will add to your application, that's very good. So we would say to try and, if you've anything relevant on your CV, to try and match it to the program you're applying for as well. And especially in your application questions, to show that you've researched your program that you're applying for as well.
Laura, can I jump in there? There's a few questions I'm seeing here just in relation to transcripts.
Okay.
So a few sort of slightly different questions. So there's a few on the same subject here, which is in relation to if you don't have a full set of transcripts obviously yet, and I think I touched on that a little bit earlier, but basically that's no problem. You know, you don't need to have your full, depending on your undergrad, obviously, whether it be 3 years or 4 years, you don't need to have your full transcripts ready yet, because for the most part, you're probably not finished. What I would suggest is give it as much as you can at the moment. Look, we understand that program offices around the world in whatever university you might be coming from are quite under pressure at the moment with probably the change of teaching. So you know, we will be offering a little bit of flexibility around how long it takes you to get your transcripts. But the most important thing is that this is the advantage of applying early and applying now, is that allows you time maybe to get us other information that you might need sent in to us as well. So someone here just asked a question of, is a letter for each year with all the modules and grades sufficient as opposed to official transcripts? It's a slightly tricky one to answer, but generally, if it's an official letter from the university, then that's okay for the part of assessment. So in assessing your application, as long as it includes the modules and the grades. So to be honest with you, if they're producing a letter that has the modules and the grades, then that is effectively a transcript anyway. Obviously, for assessment of your application, we do need to see every single module and grade that you've got. And by the way, a side note, I don't think there's a question on that, but maybe just in relation to, you know, what we look for when we assess your transcripts. Look, you know, let's be honest, we don't put a huge amount of emphasis on your first year, possibly, because we all know what happens when we get into first year in university. Look, what we try to see is that you've got a good overall track record that is generally going up with each year that you're doing it. And actually, Laura, I think it's probably a good point to mention is something that we get here quite a lot, isn't it? That if for some reason your grades or your GPA is a little bit lower than what you were hoping, it's very important that you address that in your essays. So for example, if, I don't know, there might be an extenuating circumstance as to why your grades were poor in 1 year, maybe you got sick or maybe there was something else going on. I think it's important to address that. Now, we don't generally look for proof of this. So it's just something that we feel that you should address. So if you feel that maybe you've underperformed, then don't hide it away. Just put it up front and center. That's something that we appreciate. We look, because otherwise we'll just be looking at it and making an assumption that these grades are the best that you can do, when in reality you might actually be able to do a lot better. So that's why we have the essays. It's important to talk about this. And just on that as well, maybe one final point before I pass back to Laura, but on the transcript side of things, there's obviously a few questions around the conditional and the conditional offers. And I think one of the key things here just to mention again is how this works. So again, we obviously can't make you a full offer until you provide us with your full set of final transcripts with your final grade. That's the only time we'll be able to make you a full offer. So for most students, and I'm hazarding a guess here, is potentially maybe 80% of all students who apply to us, they won't have finished their undergrad already. So what we do is we make you a conditional offer based on you getting a certain score in your final results. So you then accept this, which basically secures your place on the program by paying the deposit, which is non-refundable, and it's important to note. And then what happens is hopefully you knuckle down and you do a great job in your finals. usually for most people around the world, you get a result in summer or late summer. You then send that to us. We then make you that full offer. So just that's generally how it works. Now, again, there's lots of other little caveats around that, but generally speaking, that's the way it works. So I think I've answered a few questions there. Laura, I might pass you back and I'll have a look at a few more here.
Great. So yeah, we're getting some questions about, do you have to have work experience to apply for the program? So no, you don't. If you have work experience, it's good to mention it in your application, but no, you wouldn't need to have work experience to apply for the program. We do have some questions as well about, can you apply for the programs if you don't have a business degree? So it's really important that first slide we showed you in the presentation, to have a look at that as the starting point. So that will list all the programs that you're eligible for. You can apply and we can look through your application and see modules that you've studied as well. So that's all available in our brochure. So we definitely recommend to have a look at the programs and then just the courses that you can study to be eligible to apply for those programs. We have a few people asking, so do you need to complete your English test before applying? So as Richard said before, no, you don't, but it is important to put in your application when you plan on taking the English test.
Just one here, actually, Laura, if you don't mind, because
Okay.
I know there's a number of UCD graduates or current students actually watching this. So actually, just a good question from Leah here. Just being a UCD graduate, do you still have to send the transcripts in? So no, that's actually an advantage of coming from UCD direct to us, is that we have access to your student grades, which you give permission to us to do when you apply. So once you apply, we can then view your grades. So no need, if you're a current UCD student or former UCD student, to provide us the transcripts. We can look at those. Anything else there you have, Laura?
Yes, so somebody asked about, if you haven't finished your degree, can you tell us what you hope to get as your final results? So yes, there is that option in your application to tell us what you expect to get as your final grade. And you can also, if you want, to include the modules that you'll be studying in final year as well.
Yeah, and I think there's a few questions coming in relation to references. Don't think we've touched on that yet, or have we actually? So just briefly, we generally there's on the application form, there's a place where we ask for referees. So people, if we need to contact, we can. And often people attach reference letters, so maybe one from a faculty member, or one from maybe some work experience that you've done. So for the most part, for most of our courses, we don't specifically require references to be attached. That being said, again, depending on what kind of region you're coming from, I know it is a requirement for example, from our Asian students to include references, but for our Irish students, it's not such a case. So if there is a case where we might require reference, we will get back to you. Generally speaking, we don't put too much emphasis on the reference letters because one of the key reasons is generally getting reference letters can be like pulling teeth. It can take weeks, sometimes months, and that delays you, and that delays your application. And sometimes that means you don't actually get a spot on the course because you've been waiting too long for a former boss to write you a letter. So what I do suggest is, if you don't have your reference letters straight away, get them in. Now, again, caveats, because for example, with our SEMS program, you do need to have reference letters ahead of potentially an interview. So you can apply for our SEMS International Management Program if you don't have reference letters, but we do require them ahead of any interview that you might get. So I think that might help answer some questions around reference letters. Again, to summarize, we don't put too much emphasis on it. You can attach them if you want, but please, most importantly, do not wait if it's taking ages to get one at the cost of you maybe getting a place in the course. Actually, Laura, I might answer one quick one here too, in relation to someone's actually asked about international diversity, and it's sort of it's an interesting topic actually, because it's something that our business school has always maintained a fairly good standard and split. It's always generally been around the 50-50 mark, so 50% domestic Irish students and 50% international students. Now, we don't have, caps per se as to, when, if you're coming from a certain country, we try to avoid things like that. And actually it happens to be quite an organic, natural process of being able to fill courses with students from all around the world. And generally from year to year, we have about easily 60 plus different nationalities that come here. So something that we really take pride on is our international diversity. And that obviously helps our rankings too, and also helps you because you're making future friends and work colleagues around the world. So it's part of the sort of Smurfit factor. But equally, if you're an international student, you want to come here and be able to, share a class with Irish students and have a good Irish experience too. So it's something that I think we really get a good split of diversity in our classes, and we do take pride in that. Laura, anything else there?
We have a few questions on when's the best time to apply. So we've said this already, that it's really important to apply as soon as you know what program you want to apply for. We have seen a significant increase in the amount of applications we've received. So try and apply as soon as you can.
Yeah, and there's actually, let me see, there's no one here. Do we do personal interviews before giving the offer? Generally speaking, no, we don't do one-on-one interviews. As it happens, a lot of people either reach out to us in the admissions office, and we might have an informal chat. Feel free to do that. If we can, we will try to set one up with you. Or we might meet you at an event, and generally those people who we meet at events, will write in their essay that we met them, and that's always good for us to remember that we've met you. And in some ways that it acts as a little bit of a informal interview, but generally speaking, no. And the only two courses that we require a specific one-on-one interview is in relation to our MBA program, obviously, and obviously also our SEMS International Management. Now that's not given for everybody because there's a pre-screen that happens, so not everybody gets invited to interview. So there's those are sort of the one-on-one interviews, and then also with a number of our other courses, there's a how do we put it, Lord? There's a online interview process that happens. It's not a live interview. What happens is there's pre-recorded questions. Now you should treat it like a live interview, and essentially all the instructions be sent out. What happens is there's a bank of questions that myself and some others have asked in relation to your course, and will pop up. It's random, and you might get a simple question asking about, tell us a time that something happened and how did you deal with it, and then you have to record your answer on that particular link, and then that comes through to us. So that's only on certain courses like supply chain management, our MBA program, and our finance program. So those ones are really the only ones where there's an interview process. But I will say this as well: if we feel we need to get more information from you for any reason, maybe you haven't submitted enough, or maybe there's something we want to clarify, we will maybe set up an interview too. So so don't take it as a bad thing if we set up an interview with you. It might just be us trying to find out some more information.
And there's just two more questions here as well. So at the moment, the applications are for our September 2021 programs. So that's just the applications at the moment. And then we also have a question: if you're applying for more than one course, is there an option to put them in preference? So yes. So when you apply, you have to apply separately for each course, and then you'll be able to preference them in for second, third, and so on. So yes, there is an option to preference your courses.
And there's another one here in relation to sort of deadlines, and also, for example, as I mentioned earlier, to apply as early as you can. And someone's actually said, if I can apply to December, is that going to affect me? No, it's not. We don't run on deadlines. So unlike other institutes where they may suggest that all applications have to be in by March, and then they assess everybody at that time, what we do is we do a rolling admissions basis. So basically that means our course are filled on a first come, first served basis. So that's a kind of, again, the emphasis on applying early, because it does mean that, there's a chance that you might miss out. And we have no idea when those courses will fill. All I can say to you now is that for the last, at least 5 years in a row, every year our numbers have gone up and up and up in with regards to our applications, but this year in particular, probably due to obvious reasons, we've seen an even bigger jump again. So there's more and more people applying to us. Makes our job in the admissions office a lot more difficult, but it's a good problem to have. So what I am saying to you though is that that probably means the course closing will come back earlier each year. So there's no guarantees. It's different for every course, different for different regions too. So I would suggest to you that, again, the best thing I can say is just get your application in as early as you can. I think if you start leaving things into the new year or next year, you might very well have missed out on a place. And also, I think the final point on that is that particularly if you're a final year, student studying for your final exams, I think it's a good idea to try to get your offer now, this side of Christmas, and have that and be happy to know that you will know what your future is going to be. And then that will allow you just to focus solely on your studies for your last semester and hopefully get an even better grade. So Laura, anything else?
I think that's all our questions. So we'd just like to thank you again for joining our admissions webinar. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact the admissions team, and also to try and attend as many of the events that you can for our master programs today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.